Julia Hartley-Brewer at breakfast on Talk Radio.
Good morning to you. This is Talk Radio Breakfast with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Thank you so much for your company. 9:23 is the time. Don't forget the Home of Common Sense is now on your TV. For details, go to talkradio.tv or download the Talk Radio TV app. Well, I'm delighted to welcome my next guest to the studio. Always nice to have people in the studio. And he's a man we spoke to last year over, well, rather different matters than we're going to discuss today, hopefully. Nick Buckley, MBE, is the founder of the charity Mancunian Way, helping young people, grapple their way through difficult lives. And I'm delighted to say he's here. Good morning to you, Nick.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Well, thanks so much for coming in. Now, last time we spoke to you, you were among the many people being, subjected to cancel culture, an attempt to basically oust you from your charity for just sort of speaking out your mind.
For having an opinion.
Oh, it's terrible. It'll never catch on. Remind me, what was the terrible opinion that you had that you spoke publicly?
I publicly criticised Black Lives Matter for being a postmodern Marxist organisation.
What were you thinking?
I know, I'm obviously a racist.
Yes, well, me too. Yes, exactly, we all are. Yes, the vast majority of people who think that, yes, this organisation, not the sentiment, as you pointed out,
Yep.
We agree with the sentiment, but yes. Well, you've spoken out, you were eventually actually reappointed to your role at the charity Mancunian Way. Tell us a little bit about what the charity does, and then we'll move on to, well, how much harder your job has become since the whole pandemic and lockdown policy.
So I set the charity up 10 years ago to work on the streets across Greater Manchester, to work with the kids who were more likely to get involved in crime and antisocial behaviour. So to get in there fast and stop them making poor choices.
And this is the thing, it's a lot easier for a lot of people's kids who are listening today not to get involved in the gangs and drugs and things to go wrong because of the lives they have at home, the schools they go to, the neighbourhoods they live in, many of the kids that you're helping. And of course, everything has gone much, much worse for these children as a result of lockdown policy, both lockdowns 1 and 3, devastating children, locking them effectively in their homes for large parts of the day and keeping them out of school. Tell us about that impact on the kids that you work with.
So the young people we work with, it's had a real impact in many levels. So education is a big one. The young people we're working with are not doing well in education anyway. And they've had no education now for well over a year. They're never going to catch up.
Many of them haven't even gone back in. We said, was it 100,000 children just never turned up back at school again?
Yeah. And when they get there, one kid in one class somewhere in the school gets tested for COVID, and the whole class or the whole school end up leaving again. And this in and out school is really bad for young people's mental health. But the big thing we're noticing is a lack of social skills. Young people socialise each other. They work out their role in life and how to act and how to behave by being with other young people, and young people will hold them to account. Don't do this, don't do that. And because they've been on their own and been on so much on social media, which poison anyway, we can notice big effects.
And that's the thing, isn't it? I think a lot of the people making a lot of these policies and a lot of the media talking about it, we live in our nice homes. Not just we live in nice homes with guns. A lot of us probably live in nice homes with, we've got money coming in. We had the able to do the Zoom and the Teams classes. We've had schools where teachers have been accountable, and our children are living, a pretty nice existence. I've seen that it's been hard even for those kids who are from privileged backgrounds. Let alone for the kids you're talking about, but they're often being trapped in very crowded homes where you've got complete chaos anyway, in terms of parents on drink or drugs, out of work, mental health issues, physical abuse, neglect. You add all of that into the mix, children trapped in their homes without any of the routine and the outside influence of school and teachers and their classmates. That is a deadly cocktail.
The best way of describing it is Lord of the Flies. If there's no guidance and there's no rules there, young people will make up their own guidance, their own rules. And without an adult there, someone with more knowledge and experience reining them in and going, this is too far, then they don't know when to stop. And that's what we're seeing on the streets across Greater Manchester. It's worse now than it was 2 years ago. And it's because those boundaries seem to have gone altogether.
And I mean, look, I think an awful lot of us who've, if you walk around the streets of any major city or town or travel on public transport, do actually worry. I'm quite genuine that some of the teenagers we're dealing with are all but feral. I mean, no fear of the police, no, I certainly remember when I was a teacher, I can remember being at school, a sixth former talking to you, you'd be terrified, let alone a teacher. You would be told off if you were misbehaving, or you feared being told if you're misbehaving by another adult in the street. Now, I mean, we're all terrified of teenagers, and probably quite rightly, because we don't know whether they're armed with a knife or acid, and anyway, they don't care what we think.
We've sort of programmed them now not to care. The police in our country now have got a really bad reputation because they're being criticised all the time, and mainly rightly so. Not always, but sometimes rightly so.
But often the bobbies on the beat are trying to do a really good job, but they're being held back, aren't
Exactly. So young people are hearing all this criticism, and now, some didn't like the police anyway, but the ones who would respect the police are now realising the police are not there to be respected. And then when we have law, especially around COVID, and the young people know that everybody they know broke that law,
Yeah.
it then gives people, adults as well as children, the reason to start questioning, is this one of the laws I obey, or is this one of the laws that I don't obey? Because we have a choice in this country now which laws we follow or not, and that's a bad precedence.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, teaching your children to lie about what you're doing and what you're not doing has been a very bad message that a lot of, by the way, middle class parents have been teaching their children as well. There's a big concern about youth services being, absolutely trounced. Desperate calls for more funding and for charities and other official services like yours. We've seen this big reshuffle in government yesterday. It's carrying on today, no doubt tomorrow as well, going down the lower levels. What do you want to come out of this? What would make a difference to the lives of the children that you are trying to work with?
It's not just money. So if the government think they're going to throw a couple of 100 million at this problem and they can wash their hands, that's not the issue. We need more money. The government needs to come up with a strategy of what is youth work for? What is it trying to achieve? Because I know lots of youth centres that do amazing work, but I also know just as many who are too pink, too fluffy, don't achieve anything, want to hang with the kids, I'm your mate, and it achieves nothing. We need to work out what it's for, and then we can start funding those agencies that deliver what we want them to deliver. Education, it needs to be around employment, it needs to be about upskilling people. What I don't want to see, which is happening, is turning young people into mini activists. And that's and that's what a lot of youth work at the moment, the last couple of decades, is about. We're going to teach you're a bit of a victim, single parent household, you live on a council estate, let's do this, let's do that, let's raise awareness. It's like, no, don't raise awareness, improve the skills of that young person.
You need a maths and English GCSE. You need to learn some skills about getting up and going and doing a job as being a meaningful member of society. It's the boring stuff, unfortunately, which is actually the stuff that achieves happiness and success for these young people. Nick Buckley, I know you're just doing fantastic work, really appreciate it. Nick Buckley MBE, founder of the charity at Mancunian Way, at 9:30 is the time. This is Talk Radio.